Managing a team of investigators just got easier with TrackOps, the all-in-one case management software. Are you ready to enhance case flows and drive efficiency? TrackOps offers powerful management and coordination tools to streamline workflows and communication, all designed to keep your team synchronized and focused on the task at hand. With TrackOps, you can easily distribute workloads, track individual performance, and ensure deadlines are met. Plus, the TrackOps mobile app allows investigators to access case activities on the go. And the TrackOps video app allows for simple and consistent timestamping, all included at no extra cost. Start streamlining your investigation process today. Visit trackops.com for a free 15-day trial and experience the power of efficient team management. TrackOps, empowering teams, simplifying management. This episode is brought to you by 4 Pillars Research, a nationwide leader in policy limit searches, now expanding its services to support private investigators working with injury attorneys. Since 2019, 4 Pillars Research has been known for its professionalism and top-tier customer service. If you're a private investigator, you know how crucial it is to provide accurate and complete information to your clients. Research can be time-consuming and challenging, especially when accuracy is non-negotiable. That's where 4 Pillars Research comes in. Unlike other firms that outsource their work, 4 Pillars handles everything in-house, ensuring you receive precise policy limit details of the at-fault party before litigation even begins. With 4 Pillars, you get more than just data. Each client is paired with a dedicated client engagement specialist, ensuring personalized service and meticulous attention to detail. And for those of you handling multiple cases, they even offer loyalty programs for high-volume clients. So if you're looking to elevate your investigative work and provide your clients with the best possible service, contact 4 Pillars Research today. Let them handle the complex research so you can focus on delivering results. That's 4 Pillar Research, your trusted partner in policy limit research. Reach out now and take your investigative services to the next level. Special announcement. Congrats to our very own host, Matt Spaier. He was just named a 2024 Top 100 Entrepreneur by Top 100 magazine. Matt continues to push the envelope for business development in the private investigation space. So big congrats to Matt and the team at Satellite Investigations. Welcome to this week's episode of PI Perspectives. Today, we're back with a new show. Our guest is Mike Auletta from USA Bug Sweeps. We discussed the pitfalls and misconception of what bug sweeping is and how, as an investigator, you can capitalize on this work. As Matt likes to quote his friend Jim Nanos, sometimes it's better to know the guy than be the guy. So please welcome Mike Auletta and your host, New York Private Investigator Matt Spaier.
And welcome everyone to this week's episode of PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. Today we're talking to Mike Auletta from USA Bug Sweeps. Mike and I had the pleasure of hanging out in New Jersey about a week ago at the New Jersey conference, which, all joking aside, was actually an amazing conference. Mike was chatting there, and I asked him to come on and just talk about Bug Sweep. So Mike, I want to welcome you to the program.
All right. Thank you very much, Matt. Yeah, this is we had a great time at that conference. It was a new one, but I think that it went pretty well. So
kudos to Jim Nanos and the board for putting a great event together. It was really, really cool. And I didn't realize that I had actually gone to the last event they had years and years and years ago. So it had been some time, and I think it was great that he put it together. So let's talk a little bit about your background. So for folks who don't know you, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Okay. My name is Mike Auletta. I started in the private investigative industry way back in 2007. I went to the University of New Haven in Connecticut, and I was offered a job with a private investigative agency up there, Lemieux Associates, right before I graduated. And I got the awesome opportunity to work with them and everybody over there, George and everybody that was working from them at the time. And they really showed me the ropes of the private investigative industry. almost all aspects of it, from domestic cases to insurance cases and kind of mostly everything in between. So I got to work with these great investigators and learn the industry in real time. And I did that and grew with them for a couple of years up there before it was time for me to head back here to New Jersey. So I did come back to New Jersey. I started Anchor Investigative Services with their support. They were amazing every step of the
Mhm.
way. And that really helped me streamline some of those early issues that people have when starting an agency. And as far as workflow and everything like that. And
Sure.
then a couple of years after that, I was talking to Jimmy Messis, who founded USA Bug Sweeps and a bunch of other companies. We had been friends for quite some time, actually through the volunteer fire department there in Manalapan,
Yep.
and years after that. And he let me know about bug sweeps, and I started the pathway of training with TSCM equipment and the industry, and getting experience working with him. And that took a couple of years, and I started doing sweeps on my own. And from there on out, we just kind of got busier, and the industry itself, I think, had a bit of a change going on at that time and now as well. And eventually, Jimmy was looking to retire. I was looking to go a little further with it. We kind of swapped places, and Jimmy usually answers the phones, and that's what he's content doing right now.
Sure.
And he's still very much involved in bug sweeps, just as a different role.
Sure.
And we are plugging forward, constantly checking out new equipment, checking out different trends, and seeing what's going on. So that's kind of my pathway here that led
Yeah.
me to us sitting down talking today.
Yeah, I mean, Jimmy Messes and Roe, I mean, those two, what they've done for our industry and how they've grown it. For folks who don't know who Jimmy Messes is, he's done classes on marketing, on online presence, and then the bug sweeping as well. Um, he definitely is a guy you have no problem aligning yourself with, and you'll do okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Abs- I,
it's
I'm sorry.
yeah, no, go ahead, go ahead.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, both of them, they have that history in the industry, and like you said, in a lot of different aspects of it. So, you really do kind of get that opportunity when you speak to actually either one of them, to really learn something that you may be overlooking, or may not be an expert in. So,
Sure.
it is a pretty cool alignment to have there.
It's very cool to see them traveling now. The posting you see Jimmy and Ro doing now, they're going somewhere and they're
I
enjoying
don't even know where they
enjoying.
are right now. I have no
Yeah,
idea.
grandkids and traveling. That's pretty much what you get from the feed of following Jimmy Messes these days, which is
Living the
awesome.
dream.
Yeah, well deserved. And
Absolutely.
yeah, he's a great dude. Um, so the whole bug sweeping thing. I mean, what a great opportunity to learn and just kind of um, see what works and what doesn't work, and really learn how to position yourself. And there has been change over the years, like you were talking about with equipment.
Mhm.
And bug sweeping is nothing new. It's been around for many, many, many years. Um, the ease of it, I think, has kind of changed as technology has gotten better. Um, and when I say ease, I mean the available equipment. The skill level and the ability to use those pieces of equipment is not easy. It's an investment in time. Um, so for the layperson, why don't you break down TCSM, what that is, and how that all works, and
Okay.
we'll drill down on it.
I mean, at its simplest form, the TSCM industry and bug sweeping is really a collection of sciences put together to go into a space and adequately search for some type of covert spying device that doesn't belong there. That over the years, as we're talking about, things have changed. That is one of the biggest things that have changed, is what's there and how it's being used. But at its core, you're really looking for something somebody put there to spy on somebody else or something else.
Right.
And what that goal is there for them to learn any information that could be happening in that space. And that's really the backbone of it is looking for something that doesn't belong there.
Sure.
And why, the why or the how, I mean, that's kind of secondary, but we're there to electronically and physically find, what's not supposed to be there.
Sure. And there are different verticals of that as well, right? So
Mhm.
by verticals, I mean different types of clients, right? You've got the private sector, you've got corporations, big business, you've got hotel chains, so there are different reasons and different times that you would need to do that. If there's a matrimonial thing going on, maybe counter surveillance,
Mhm, mhm.
maybe you're being hired to do some counter stuff. Like there are different times when that's necessary, and I think it's important as an investigator to understand the limits of your own capabilities and when you should pick up the phone and call or drop an email to an expert who can handle it properly and not just buy something from overseas that may or may not work. That's not the proper equipment, and charge somebody something when you really shouldn't be doing the work. You should probably be handing it off. And then hopefully if you're doing it to the right person, they're giving a commission to do that. Cause typically that's the norm, the industry norm, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you hit on a bunch of big things right there. To start with, purchasing some type of equipment, and we have clients that do this, not just other investigators, but clients themselves. What do we do the first time we don't know something? Is we go to Google, we search it, and then usually there's something for sale for that thing we don't know, and we look for the best reviews and the best price, and we go for it. And I'm all about that. I mean, the amount of projects I have unfinished around this house right now, you would be amazed. But you know what? I like doing it myself. But so I get that mentality very much so. But the core problem there is the the equipment that is commercially available to us through Amazon or any one of these other outlets. It does it does what it's supposed to do. The problem is it doesn't do that as it's marketed. So what I mean by that is there are plenty of RF detectors, and you see like the K85 or whatever it is out there. It'll detect radio frequency. That's it's one job, and it does that. It does that well. The problem is it doesn't tell you which frequency it's detecting. It doesn't tell you where it's coming from. It doesn't tell you its strength. It just says, "Hey, I found a frequency here." And some people may not be aware that we are surrounded by radio frequencies almost everywhere
Yeah.
all day. So you're going to find something, with a detector. Having the ability to fully analyze the radio frequencies across the spectrum is really where you kind of step up into being a more professional aspect of this. Because that allows you to not only trace proximity of that signal that you're detecting, but also right away where it's located on the spectrum, you can pretty much recognize that if that belongs there or if it doesn't and what it's being
Right.
used for. So, I mean, that's just a small example of I get why people want to try to do things themselves. I do it all the time. Don't ask me to ever do drywall work in your house. It'll take me 6 months, but I
Duly
mean,
noted. Yes.
and I understand that, but yeah, there with that level of sophistication, and that's really another aspect is uh you were talking about the reasons why people do call us in or possible clients, and we have seen a major uptick in that residential domestic space in the industry, mostly due to the availability of products that are out there.
That's what it is. Just
Yeah, you
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 can get
don't
them
need to,
easily.
there
Yeah. Yeah.
used to be a guy in a basement smoking a cigarette,
Right.
soldering a circuit board together, and you had to know five people to get to him. But, now you have Amazon, and now we have websites and things like that. And it's, it's so much more accessible now. So that's why we see it more often. People are more comfortable with technology now versus 10 years ago
Sure.
even longer. So I
Yeah.
think that's why you see that real domestic range really kicking in with clientele. You're always going to have those corporates and businesses and things like that. There's always trade secrets. There's always disgruntled employees.
Sure.
A handful of situations for the business side of our industry. But those things aren't going away. They're getting a little smarter, and that's really about it.
Yeah, I think that guy in the basement used to solder things. It was either buying a camera or buying a cable box.
Yeah,
We
it's
all
the
wanted
cable
free
box.
HBO. It's like one or the other.
I'll get you a good cable box. I got you.
Exactly.
Hot box.
Let's go from there. I don't know anything about that. What's the statute of limitations on that stuff?
I think we're good by now.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're okay. So yeah, it's just interesting. I think it's a good point, right? So the ease of getting equipment like that. I mean, AirTags.
Mhm.
Easily. You want to start tracking people and doing whatever. At least they identify that that's a problem, and they're making it a little bit harder. But it's so readily available, and for good reasons and not so good reasons, depending on your
So
person.
if I can interrupt you for one
Yeah.
second with the AirTags, it's one of my favorite things because
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
it's so it's an awesome piece of tech. I mean, we have them in our kids' backpacks. I mean, like I use the Galaxy Smart Tags because I'm not an Apple product user,
There you
but
go.
but I bought almost all of them to test them, to see what we're looking for. How are we going to find this? If somebody ditches this in a car, how is it going to work? What does it work? What does it not? And the one thing, and there was a recent news article that was published probably last week or the week before. Tile is coming out with a new line, and they're going to provide the ability to connect and disconnect the device remotely, which is going to be either never rolled out because they're going to realize what's going to happen with this, or it's
Yeah.
going to be much more restrictive than what they're initially saying. Because
Right.
in theory, that would give you the ability to place a tile tag on a car, only turn it on when you want to see where it is, and then turn it back off. So it'll never be emitting that Bluetooth signal where it's looking for its situation. And the way they're doing that is you report it lost, and then you say you found it. And then
Mm.
you report it lost, and then you say you found it. So I think there's a lot of details they have to work out there, but that's a great example of kind of newer things that are coming out that are trying to make our lives easier and more convenient. But
Yeah.
just like
Sounds
when
like
the
LoJack.
AirTags first came out, that was a big thing, and it's
Yeah.
it's interesting. I mean, you get notifications on any phone now. I was just
Yeah.
on a train to Manhattan, and I got a notification on my Android phone that there's been an AirTag following with me for the last hour. Yeah, we're on a train. Of course, it has been, but like, that's what we're seeing, and at least they are combating it a little bit.
Yeah, they're
You can
trying.
find them too.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I just joked around a bit about LoJack, but I mean, like that's what it reminds me of, right?
Mhm.
Like we used to have these big, like, where's the box in your car? Like,
Mhm.
don't worry, if your car gets stolen, you'll be
Yeah.
okay. LoJack.
But that was restricted to law enforcement. So that
Yeah,
was your kind of your check and balance there.
for sure, for sure. It's amazing how it just keeps getting smaller and smaller too, the equipment,
Oh yeah.
and what it does. And you touch on some things here too with the sweeping technology and Wi-Fi and how that's greatly affected, what you look for, right? It used to
Mhm.
be hardwired, battery life, like these are all things that you had to take into consideration. Now you're talking about Wi-Fi and modems and,
Mhm.
is the person next door beaming something into me? Like it's really espionage stuff. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what's some of the things you've seen?
And it's become a lot easier. That's kind of the key, is that it has become a lot easier because we've become, as an overall group, I guess, or people, we've become a lot more comfortable with technology, especially Wi-Fi,
Mhm.
because we buy anything and is it Wi-Fi enabled? Can I get it on my phone? Can I see it in real time? My garage door, I could open it up from California if I'm sitting. Is there any limit to it? I don't know, but we are overall more comfortable with it. So when
Yeah,
we buy spying devices or covert devices and they're Wi-Fi enabled, it's not that hard of a jump for us to set that up. So
sure.
it becomes more of a realistic, something that's doable rather than, oh, I can never pull that off, as the bad guy. So what we see is that the bigger challenges with Wi-Fi is, okay, we're comfortable with Wi-Fi networks and they're in almost every house and they're everywhere, and you have Spectrum and Xfinity hotspots and all this stuff. But
Mhm.
when you're working in an environment where you're familiar with the network, but you also know that either that network is monitored or that network can change, you have to find a way to get your own Wi-Fi. And that also, that availability of network connections has changed. We work with mobile hotspots now where you just got to make sure you have a SIM card with some data on it, and
Yeah.
you can have that network connection. You can hide the connection so only the device that you're running can see it. It's not going to come up on your phone as an available network list, and it can be stashed in an attic or anywhere that there's an outlet that nobody's going to go, as long as it has power and a cell signal, which most of the time we do in the
Right.
general
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
You have connectivity. You have something to link your device to that you can then access in real time or transfer data in real time. So you can set that up to have a device that's recording, say, only when motion's present, and then at 2 a.m. connect to that connection and dump everything onto a server somewhere, and
Sure.
then cut off the connection. So now you have to look for the device and how the device is connected. So
Sure.
it has changed. It is much more accessible, but I think that knowing that kind of gives us the advantage as well. So we know there's really three main ways that data is going to be transferred remotely. It's going to be Wi-Fi, it's going to be radio frequency, or some type of cellular connection using cellular data. So as long as we know we can look for those transmission signals at the time that we're there, it's one thing off the checklist of things that we're looking for. And
Absolutely.
yeah, that's that connectivity. That's again something that makes our lives more convenient, but
Sure.
can be used for evil.
It can be used right. Exactly. Be careful what you ask for. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back here, I want to touch in on like some of the misconceptions about bug sweeping, and I really want to educate listeners. There's a lot of investigators that are listening to this program, and I want them to understand the technology that's out there. And when you get those calls, like not to say no, and refer it over to somebody who can do that. And we'll talk about the challenges of that too, because it's not always a good fit or a home run or any of that stuff. So everybody sit tight, and we'll be right back.
Do you enjoy our podcast and the guests we bring you? Since 2019, Matt and his team have done their very best to give you amazing shows each week. If you feel like our show has helped you to be a better investigator, or maybe even inspired you to become an investigator, please let us know. We're looking for testimonials. Drop Matt an email with a recorded 20 to 30 seconds of you talking about this podcast. You can also email him something verbal about the website. His email is matthews@satellitepi.com. And if you really feel blessed for having this content, consider supporting Matt and our show by joining Investigators Toolbox. You really have to see version 2.0. And at just 49 cents a day, it's a no-brainer. After 4 years of development, Scope Now is proud to announce the release of Grid. Grid combines OSINT with real-time physical data to achieve new levels of intelligence gathering. Grid supports over 50 data types and hundreds of thousands of sources. Upgrade your OSINT capabilities with Grid and elevate your intelligence team today at scopenow.com. The Campbell Group has teamed up with PI Perspectives to offer listeners top-notch, affordable insurance solutions. Private investigators can get insurance for their business for as low as $305 per year. Apply now at piperspectivesinsurance.com and receive a quote back within 24 hours. Check out the PI Institute of Education at piinstitute.com. Since 1989, Kelly Riddle has been teaching on subjects such as surveillance, nursing home investigations, insurance fraud, domestic investigations, hidden assets, and accident scene investigations. The PI Institute of Education is a featured learning partner in the investigatorstoolbox.com. So check out the free content on the site, then visit the Institute for more great savings on additional classes. Over the past year, our industry has been the target of foreign governments and agencies that have attempted to recruit unsuspecting investigators to gather intelligence or immediate expatriates. PI Perspectives is teaming up with the Federal Bureau of Investigations to get the word out about this ongoing crisis. If you've been contacted by an individual or company that might seem suspicious, please contact the FBI at tips.fbi.gov. You can also contact the New York field office at 212-384-1000 to report suspicious activity in any state. The link is also in the show notes. Even if you completed a job and it still doesn't sit right with you, you can report this activity. The only way to stop this trend is to work together. So let's do it. Satellite Investigations has launched its new website full of great new content. Matt and his team have released some great informative blogs. Make sure you log in to LinkedIn and follow Satellite Investigations for the latest content.
And welcome back to PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. Today we're welcome back to Mike Auletta. Mike is USA Bug Sweeps and Anchor Investigations in New Jersey.
Yes.
And Mike is a resident expert on bug sweeping, and I asked him to come on and chat about that technology and just bring everybody up to speed here. So, Mike, I want to welcome you back to the program.
No, thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so before we took a break, I was talking about going through some of the misconceptions of bug sweeping and what folks may not realize about it. We had talked about some certain situations and some of the new technology, but as an investigator, you get that call that comes in. What do you think is like the biggest misconception about bug sweeping itself?
The biggest overall misconception about bug sweeping itself is most people don't quite understand what testing and functions are taking place during a sweep, what a sweep actually entails. And that's a large part of our initial conversation with a potential client, is explaining to them, what we're testing for, what our limits are, and what situations would be beneficial for us to come into. Misconceptions are not anything new, especially look at the overall private investigative industry. You tell people you're a private detective or a private investigator. Do you have a Ferrari and a Hawaiian shirt? No, I don't. I shave my mustache, whatever. But that's that age-old misconception. Totally. Nobody thinks about the days you spend at a courthouse digging through dusty records looking for that one file. So there's misconceptions across the board, and bug sweeps is no different. We are hurt a bit by individuals that do offer the service, but don't, like any industry, I guess, but don't take the time to educate themselves to provide the service and the investment in the equipment that's actually required to provide the service. So that is also a large misconception as well. That you don't need all of this fancy, expensive equipment to do this stuff. You do to do it right. That's really the key there. So
I think one of the issues too is you can do bug sweeping and not actually be a licensed private investigator. And you get people that get into the field to do the sweeping that maybe shouldn't be doing it or don't really have a full grasp on what they're doing. And they're not trained properly because there is no regulation to it, right?
Most places there is no licensure requirement to conduct a bug sweep. And not anything like the private investigative industry, where almost I think there's 2 states that still don't require licensing, but
there were a couple that pulled back. I think it's 4 now.
Yeah. Okay. but yeah, we don't have that overall, because it is a relatively small industry, so nobody wants to spend the time or the money to regulate it, if you will. So you do wind up with some of that self-regulation, and we see it as being a professional service provider. Getting phone calls from somebody that says, this guy just came in, he charged me $500 and he waved the wand around for 20 minutes and told me I was good. I don't think he did a sweep. And I was like, no, he did not do anything that resembles.
Did he say abracadabra?
Yeah. And you know what, to that point, we kind of make a very conscious effort. It doesn't happen every client, but it is something that we try to do. We try to walk every client through the equipment as we're using it. So at the minimum, hey, this is a nonlinear junction detector. This is what it does. Here's how it works. This is what I'm testing for while I'm in your house. That way, they have a more solid grasp on what's happening here. What are you looking for?
Right.
Can I feel confident when you leave? And I think that educational part of it is very important, because it's not like hiring a plumber. A lot of, hey, my toilet's clogged, I need a plumber. When the plumber leaves, the toilet's not clogged, it's done.
Right.
It's not that black and white sometimes. So we do try to make every effort to educate our end clients as much as possible, to have them understand a little better what we're doing while we're out there.
So do you find yourself getting a lot of repeat business from corporations and things like that where they've got a need ongoing?
Yes. As an overall answer to your question, we get a
Right.
lot of reactionary calls for sweeps from businesses where, oh no, something bad happened. We got to get them in here right away. But
Right.
we
Right.
do have our clients that, either annually, biannually, prior to a large meeting or something very sensitive happening, they'll call up or shoot up an email and say, hey, we need you next week. When can you be here? Or something like that.
Right.
And that is something that is done, I think, more often than people realize. It's not businesses don't really advertise too much that they're doing this. So we don't advertise who our clients are either, to protect
Yeah.
their.
Right. You got to sign
Yeah.
NDAs, I would
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Uh,
But there are a lot of companies that do this on a regular basis, so they can be more confident with what they have going on and what they're doing as well.
So I'm not going to ask you for like your most interesting story or anything like that. We don't want
I
you
mean,
to
I have some
violate.
interesting stories that I can tell you without letting
Please
who's
don't violate
there.
any.
I mean, we do find ourselves in Los Angeles quite often. Um,
Right.
we've been to the homes of social media influencers.
Yeah.
That's
Any
always fun.
any music moguls who maybe used to work for
Yeah,
Broadway
yeah.
Entertainment? Like, probably could have used a couple sweeps in those buildings.
I mean, I found myself in other situations with groups that usually find themselves on the other side of the law,
Sure.
and you got to kind of make a snap decision, but that could happen in any
Oh,
investigative
absolutely.
industry that you're in. You have to kind of get your ground rules down and stick to your procedures, and
Yeah.
and be open with your client, whomever they may be, and I think that's the best way to protect yourself.
I think being in the tri-state area, for me anyways, in New York, you do come across, let's call them interesting people, that when they learn what you can do, oh, okay, now I have a friend that can do this for me, and he's gonna
Hmm.
he's gonna do it for me if I ask him to do it, right? And
Yeah.
you may or may not get asked to do certain things, and you're just like, no, I'm not doing that for several reasons.
Yeah.
That may or may not have happened a few times.
I'm not trying to get involved in all of that, but
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. Um, so I mean, listen, there are some issues with it too, with sweeping. Let's talk about the downside of it, like getting into it, right? I
Okay.
mean, the first thing comes to mind to me is the cost of the equipment,
Hmm.
right? It's an investment, right?
Yes.
You're going to do it. You need to be prepared to do it. What would you say are some of the other potential down from sides to doing the work?
I mean, once you get past the hurdle of the equipment cost, there's one big equipment provider that everybody kind of knows,
Mhm.
that REI out of Tennessee. They manufacture equipment specifically for the industry. So while they're very good at what they do and their equipment is usually pretty top notch, it's just them. So there are other equipment manufacturers out there, some overseas, that are producing some really good TSCM specific equipment. So while a lot of our equipment is REI, we do have a mix of some other things in there. And we usually go with what fits our profile for the jobs that we're doing the best. we make sure we cover all the bases as far as what we're testing for, and take it from there. The other challenge far and away would be training and experience, because those are very
Travel.
big to us. I put a lot of weight in experience. I think that there's no other substitute for that, and you can train and you can learn as much as you want, but until you're standing in a building or standing in a room, and looking at a potential threat, you really don't grasp it that well.
Sure.
And that's also where REI kind of excels, because their training programs not only use their equipment, but
Massive.
they have a whole facility where you're there for a week and they're throwing you in there with stuff and saying, find it, So, I mean, there's very few other options to get that level. And then
Yeah.
after that, you got to get out in the field and do some work. Well, that's expensive for a business owner to send somebody out who's not producing income and have them gain experience. But if I'm going to get that person to the point where one day they're going to be going out on their own, it's the investment I have to make at that point. So
Oh yeah, absolutely.
those are like most businesses, but those are the bigger hurdles, I would say, challenges for us, as far as uh, being comfortable with the service that's being provided at the level that we expect. So we
Yeah.
have to have the equipment, we have to have the experience, and we have to have the training all combined into one. I mean, it's probably about a year and a half process. So
Right.
it's not something that you watch a video and head on out, and
Yeah.
that's
I
definitely a challenge.
I would say the commitment to travel too has got to be a challenge, right? That where, yeah, because of the nature of the industry, and the business itself, or the task itself, you may find yourself in different cities all over the place, right? So if you're not committed to pick up and go and bring all this equipment with you,
Mhm.
go, um, it's probably not the job for you, right?
Yeah, that is a large part of it. And I mean, we make the best effort to work around, life things going on for everybody. And
Sure.
it's something that we can usually schedule around. But I mean, the way we look at it is, you may be away from home on two jobs for 3 days or something, but you'll probably be home for 2 days after that.
Yeah.
So it's almost, the only thing I can really compare it to is almost like a firefighter's schedule. I mean, you're 24 on, what do they do now? I don't even remember, but it's like 48 on and 36 off or something, 36 on, 48 off or something like that. So yeah, you're away from the house for 2 days, but you're there for 2 days after that. So
Sure.
it balances out. We do definitely not have a strict standard 9 to 5 schedule by any means.
Right.
Very often you're flying home from LA on the red eye, and landing in Newark or somewhere 7 a.m. and hoping you caught 2 or 3 hours of sleep on the plane because you have another job that day.
Sure.
But it is the travel is a challenge. We do get to see very interesting parts of this country that you never knew existed. But it's part of the game. It's part of the
Sure.
deal there. So that's it.
Yeah. And I think, talking about, who your clients are too, the type of person, you know,
Mhm.
I think one of the challenges also is dealing with a client or a potential client that may wear some tinfoil on their head,
Yeah.
may or may not, right? And like, how do you navigate that? How do you get through that in a professional way?
So it's
You know,
it's definitely a challenge, and there's a whole different there's a lot going on there, and we get to experience quite a bit. And everything really starts from that initial phone call where that
Right.
client is reaching out to us. When I'm answering the phones, I usually get their basic information first, where they are, their name, and then I flat out ask them, what's going on? What prompted this call today?
Right.
And you get a pretty good idea at that point, where they're at and what's going on with them. And we do make it a very specific point to then advise them, this is what our equipment can do, this is what we test for. Do you still think this is something that will help you?
Right.
And try to make it very clear. We list our equipment on our website. So that way, not only do we list a description of it, they can go and Google it and see what it does too. But
Right.
for clients that might be a little a little convinced that there's something larger going on, and we experience all of them, and I don't think that's, while we may get a brunt of that, I don't think that's outside of the private investigative industry as a whole
Oh,
either.
I think we all get them.
But
Yeah.
there's the clients that, one of the big things that we interact with or deal with often is the theory of gang stalking and
Mhm.
targeted individuals, which I think is something that much more research needs to be done. There's already a lot out there. I've done a lot of research myself from dealing with these situations. I couldn't tell you one way or another if this is something that is uh, a sign of an illness, or if this is something that's really happening. I can tell you that any sweep that we've gone on that an individual claims to be part of one of these situations, we've never found anything to my knowledge. But if they're dead set and they're well aware of what we do and how we do it, and they want us there, we'll do the sweep, because
Sure.
we're providing a service. That's what they're calling us for, that service.
Right.
So I think the for me, and the way this business is run, the larger issue is not misleading them as far as what our capabilities are and what we can and can't do.
Mhm.
As long as I feel that we've advised them as much as possible about what our equipment is capable of and what we're capable of, and let them make that call, that's okay by me at that point.
Yeah, it's a judgment call too,
Mhm.
and then you take the work, you either find something, you don't find something. Are you taking those follow-up phone calls? Are
Mhm.
you now becoming that person's therapist? It's
Mhm.
like there's always a danger in that, and you really got to size the person up. I think doing that pre-interview, I think, is
Mhm.
really really important. And I'm sure like they talk about that stuff when you're training. Um, after that, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And even that time where you're trying to gain experience out there and you're going out with another technician, I can tell you multiple instances that we've taken a job, gone out somewhere, seemed like it was going to be something, was well, we were led to believe that it was something that it wasn't, and we didn't
Mm.
realize that until we got there. Um, it's not past people to call us and fabricate an entire situation going on that seems very boring. And then we get there and it's a whole different story. So there's nothing you can do about that. But
Right. Yeah. No
at that
refunds.
point, at
That's all you
that
can do.
point, I mean, it's, oh, you're getting a divorce, and okay, you're moving out. You want to make sure the house is clear before you move back in. Okay, no problem. And then, oh, but there's been 45 people that have been following you around for 6 years as well. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And even though, some of those things, not to go off on a tangent here, but
Yeah. Yeah.
uh,
Sure.
the, I just, being in the private investigative industry and running surveillance teams and running surveillance before, and knowing the background and the logistics and the cost and everything that goes into those processes. When I interact with somebody that's telling me that this has been going on for years, and there's different people each time that are following them, and there's different cars each time, and in my head, I'm running, how would I pull this off? How
Yeah.
would I logistically do this? And I'm like, I don't know
Service that
enough people that
accounts.
are investigators to do that, or that would know what they're doing in the first place, let alone pay for it. So I don't know. I want to know more about those situations. And I think we need to see some more research on it by people that are smarter than me. So
So I'm going to ask you two-part question here.
okay.
Uh, First part, like, what about this industry, the sweeping industry, excites you the most about the future?
Oh, easy. The technology. Just seeing how our sweeping technology has evolved over the years that I've been involved in it, and seeing the available technology on the other side, how that's evolved. I'm excited to see where we're going in 5 to 10 years from now. Is it going to be, are things going to be designed specifically to defeat us, are we going to combat that with something different? What's out there? Like you said, our gadgets and gizmos get smaller, but they get smarter too. So let's see where we can go with that.
Chess game. All right. So now part two. What scares you the most about the future?
Technology.
There you go. I know.
That one I got to think about a little bit. What scares me the most about the industry in particular?
In the sweeping,
Okay.
the industry.
What scares me the most is actually I can go with it. Just the rapid rate of the way we see things improving. I like to be ahead of the curve as much as humanly possible about what's out there and what's possible.
Sure.
And I know one day there's going to be a time where I'm not going to be able to do that, or there's just not enough hours in a day to research and learn and everything. And I know there's that day eventually is going to come, but this rapid advancement, and I mean, to look at it this way, and it's funny, my wife and I just recently both had our birthdays, and don't have to worry about how old we are, but we were joking that when we were both in middle school, that was the time where everybody had like beepers. That was the big tech, is like, the little beepers, and then you got the ones with the screens where you could put little messages on it, and that was so cool. And then into high school, cell phones, the Nokia 5120s, like that was the big thing at the time. And then by the time we were leaving high school, it was text messaging on your phones and the beginning of smartphones. And we were talking about this, and I'm like, in those short years, look at the advancements that were made to now. We're doing almost every aspect of life is on our phone. So what's going to happen in 10 years or 5 years when our
100%.
kids are at that age? Like, what's the frontier here? So yeah, that's pretty damn scary to me.
I remember I was having a conversation with my grandfather, who lived to be 95, by the way. So he passed away in 2003. And I remember having a convo with him about, look what you've seen in your life. Like look back and see all the things in technology that have taken place. I mean, people landing on the moon, allegedly. And you got space shuttles, and you got computers going from the size of an office room to down to little tiny things, and it's pretty amazing in such a short amount of time. I mean, to me, I find that to be fascinating and scary too. A little bit also.
Exactly.
It's just things like you get in your certain patterns. I know, like as a field investigator, I think about this all the time. Like the way my business model is, never have worked in the Chinatown days. And just the technology that we have, whether it be the maps, the receptionist, the virtual reception now, and the ability to basically live your life online, or like for me, I've gotten to the point where I'm managing mostly for my business. I'm not really out there doing the work. I can operate from anywhere.
Yeah,
really anywhere. Any conference I want to go to, I can have my computer up and I'm going and I'm doing, which is pretty amazing.
And where do we go from there?
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like is it going to make what we do unnecessary? Right. And you look at sweeping, right? Is it recession proof? Not really.
No.
I think during COVID, when everything shut down, like, okay, well, there's nothing really to sweep here, or is there?
It's interesting. That's an interesting fact that you bring up, because we took COVID's a funny thing, man. It feels like it was last year, but now, like, you look at it, no, that was 4 or 5 years ago, but 2020, we did April, March, most of March, April, and May. We didn't travel. We didn't fly. We didn't really do any sweeps. We took precautions. We were masking and gloves and everything. Then we started doing. We only started doing sweeps for local things that we could drive to. Because the
Right.
whole big scary thing was getting on an airplane. And then
Yeah.
by June, July, we said we gotta start doing work. We have to, I
Right.
mean, we were getting the calls because now you had everybody working from home and you had
Exactly.
security issues with
Security
people
to
being
sweeps at
concerned
home.
with things
That's
at
where I
home.
was going with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So we saw that a lot. I mean, Jimmy and I took a road trip to Nashville, like in June of 2020, because we didn't want to fly, and there was an office building that they wanted us to come in and sweep. So we said, to jump in the car and let's go, and we did it. And it was interesting, but I do there was a lot of bad things happened during COVID, but one of the things that always kind of brings a little chuckle to me is I was on multiple flights once we started flying again, like 737s, not small planes with 10 people,
Yeah.
14 people, repeatedly, as a constant for a long time. And
Yeah.
it was almost weird to get used to when people got back into flying and getting out there. Oh, this flight's full. What is this?
Yeah. It's
And
finally, this is the first year I think it's finally kind of like you're like, all right,
it's been,
we're over
yeah,
everything.
it's
Yeah.
it's it's been interesting. I mean, the other thing with traveling during COVID was cars. You couldn't rent a car anywhere.
Yeah.
Nobody was renting cars. So and then you had the whole chip shortage and all that, and the cars weren't available. But as far as recession proof, I don't think it is recession proof per se, but I do believe that there will be a need there depending on the cause of the recession. Like we're
Okay.
talking about a pandemic and a big
Right.
thing, but people were forced to adapt their lives to deal with that, not just shut down everything
Yeah. No,
as
a
far as
door
life
open for sure.
goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was that one was a little more specific. I don't know. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, show me a truly recession-proof business.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely a good point. I always find that, like for me, I specialize working with personal injury attorneys
Mhm.
and recession proof. Yes, to an extent, because there's always going to be accidents. There's always going to be a need to it. Technology proof, no freaking way.
No.
Like you definitely have lost, some business because of technology and the ease of,
Mhm.
of things they used to have to hire an investigator to do. They don't necessarily need to do that anymore. So it's being able to adapt and
Mhm.
we kind of come off the rails here. So I want to get, I want to get back and actually I want to kind of put a bow on it. So
Okay.
Mike, I want you just to speak to the investigator that's out there that may be listening to this. Like, what advice would you give when they get that call for someone looking for we be done?
Okay. I mean, the simplest and easiest thing that they can do is not turn down the call,
Right.
not just end the call with, "Oh, we don't provide that service." The simplest and easiest thing to do is we regularly work with experts in this field. Let me get your name and your number, and I'll get them in touch with you.
Mhm.
That way, you can send us an email or call or anything and say, hey, I have a possible client who's interested.
Right.
I didn't know what to tell them. I didn't know price. I didn't know anything, but I
Right.
have their information. That way we can then kind of take over from there. And if that client agrees to take on, take that job and use our service, we're going to be sending you up to 20% commission on that job. So in theory, you're getting 20% of whatever the job is for just taking down a name and a phone number on a call you're getting already.
It's no
So
brainer.
that's the simplest way. The simplest way to not turn down business, because then that person knows you referred somebody. And if they're ever talking to somebody and says, hey, I need a private investigator. Oh, I talked to this guy. He had an answer for me. So you're helping yourself out. You're getting a couple bucks and you're helping us out too. So I think it's a win for everybody around there.
Yeah, and you're maintaining that level of service, right?
Mhm.
Don't try and do things that you're not good at. It's not going to
Mhm.
be. You're not doing a service to your client. You're not making yourself look good because you're probably going to mess it up, and you don't want to open yourself up to any kind of liability too, which is important. If you ever had or never mind liability, but credibility too, right? If you
Yeah.
ever had to go now testify about something, like you'll
Yeah.
get creamed on the stand.
And
They'll
we've
just, you'll
we've
do it.
testified in multiple situations with
Sure.
with sweeps in multiple court jurisdictions. So it's something that's not unfamiliar to us. And we'd rather have that be your face, than where did you get your equipment? Well, I bought it off of
Right.
Amazon last
Right.
week, so, it's,
Yeah.
and you make a good point, it's, what do you specialize in? What we specialize in, what we're experts in. We're not out there trying to pull off insurance surveillance. That is not our forte. Even
Right.
with Anchor Investigative Services, my investigative agency, in reality, I maintain my license. I just renewed it, and my insurance and all that stuff. But I do work for about 5 or 6 clients that have been with me from the beginning,
Yeah.
mostly law firms and other types of firms. Um, I refer out any other calls that I get because I don't have I don't I can't devote the time that those cases
Yeah.
need. And I'd rather see another local New Jersey agency that I know may be involved in our association or something like that
Sure.
is able to devote that time to those cases. So
100%. Yep.
that's how I recognize that there's areas that I'm not going to be my 100% in at all the time
Yep.
too.
Perfect. All right, Mike. Well, thank you so much for coming on and chatting about this stuff. I really appreciate it. And I hope everybody found it to be useful and helpful and demystified the whole bug sweeping aspect of our industry, which is an important vertical.
Yeah,
So again, thank you for coming on, and everybody, thanks for checking it out. And we'll have another episode next week. Take care,
thank you
everyone.
for having me.
Yep.
Thanks for checking out our show. Mike's definitely one of the industry's leaders when it comes to bug sweeps. Don't turn the business away. If you get the call, consider passing along and collect a commission. We also want to thank our newest sponsor, 4 Pillars Insurance. Additional thanks to Campbell Insurance Group, Track Ops, Scope Now, and the PI Institute for Education for sponsoring our podcast. Don't forget about the investigatorstoolbox.com. You can type in Perspectives 50 to save $50 when you join up. And follow Matt and Satellite Investigations on LinkedIn. If you have a question or a comment about the show, email Matt at matthews@satellitepi.com. You can also find him on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We'd like your feedback to bring you the best shows possible. And we promise to be back next week with a new show. So make sure you tune in and stay safe out there.